My name is Rabbi Zalman Mendelson, and I serve as the director of the Chabad Jewish Center here in Jackson Hole. We have a series of events that are going on throughout the summer, wonderful lectures that we have. And in the next couple of days, we're going to make an announcement about a fascinating lecture that we will be having on September 29th at 6 p.m. With a survivor of the Ratsker train. This is a story of survival in Nazi Germany, mostly from Hungary, survived the war. It's really a fascinating story. Details will be found on jewishwyoming.com in the next few days. We are deeply grateful to have each and every one of you here with us this evening. The way that we're going to schedule this tonight is we're going to have about half hour, 45 minutes of talk from our distinguished guest, Bassem Eid, who's here with us, just arrived literally this afternoon from Israel, from Tel Aviv, where he resides. He'll talk for about 45 minutes, and then we'll have questions and answers from the public. We're going to ask if you can keep the questions short and brief and to the point. Not that we don't love to hear everyone's voices and everyone's suggestions and ideas, but we have a speaker here with us who's everyone has come to listen to, so we'd love if you can just ask a question and allow for Bassem to get straight to the answer. Bassem Eid is a Jerusalem-based political analyst, a human rights pioneer, an expert commentator in Arab and Palestinian affairs. Bassem Eid was born in the Jordanian-occupied Old City in East Jerusalem, whose place of residence became the United Nations Refugee Works Agency, UNRWA, refugee camp of Sharafat. Bassem Eid spent the first 33 years of his life in Sharafat. He rose to prominence during the first Intifada, the Palestinian uprising, and was a senior field researcher for B'Tselem, the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the occupied territories. In 1996, he founded the Jerusalem-based Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group. In 2016, Bassem assumed the role of chairman of the Center for Near East Policy Research. Among many things, Bassem has widely traveled to lecture on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and has attended international conferences. In recent years, he has traveled to Canada, Italy, Japan, and South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and he's here with us tonight, far away in Jackson Hole. He presented his research on UNRWA to the British Parliament's Henry Jackson Society in December of 2015. The Association for Civil Rights in Israel has awarded him its Emil Rosenzweig Memorial Award. He's also the recipient of the Robert S. Litwak Human Rights Memorial Award granted by McGill University Faculty of Law and the International Human Rights Advocacy Center, Inter Amicus. The International Activist Award was given by the Gleitzman Foundation, USA, and the award of Italy's Informazione Senza Frontiere, Information Without Boundaries. In 2009, a Book Next founders profiled him as the leading Palestinian human rights activist. Please put your hands together and join me in giving a warm Jackson Hole welcome to Bassem Eid.
Thank you, Rabbi Zalman. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much, Rabbi Zalman. And thank you, of course, for coming. It's a privilege for me to come to Jackson Hole, so lovely place, and to learn a little bit also about such wonderful city. As mentioned, originally I am a human rights activist. I never ever been affiliated with any Palestinian political party, and this is probably one of the reasons why I don't have any kind of limits or red lines in front of me while I became so critical to the Palestinian Authority. I would love to start my talk, first of all, in the Gaza Strip, because looks like that the Gaza Strip is not only an obstacle to the Israelis, it became also an obstacle to the Palestinians, and it also became an obstacle to the Egyptians. If we will look today inside the Gaza Strip, we will find that there are 4 different parties still functioning inside the Gaza Strip. 2 parties are very interesting in the destruction of the Gaza Strip. And 2 parties are very interesting in the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Who is interesting in the destruction of the Gaza Strip? The Egyptian government is one. The Palestinian Authority in the West Bank is number 2. Why? The Egyptian government believes that the Hamas is a terrorist organization. The Egyptian government believes that the Hamas is still participating in the internal terror fight which took place since 3 years ago inside Sinai. The Egyptian government believes that while more and more pressure we are going to impose on the Gaza Strip, probably this is the only way how to get rid from the Hamas organization. What is the interest of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank? That while Egypt trying to impose more and more pressure on the Gaza Strip, probably that will pave the way to the Palestinian Authority to return back to Gaza and to recontrol Gaza like they used to do till 2007. Now, who is interested in the reconstruction of Gaza Strip? 2 parties. The first party, of course, the Hamas. The second party,
The destruction, you meant?
the reconstruction of Gaza. The destruction is Egypt and the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. In the reconstruction, Hamas, of course, number 1, but you will be surprised to know who is the other party. Israel. Israel is very interesting in the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, while we, the Palestinians, are much more interested in the destruction of the Gaza Strip. Now, what is the conflict between the Hamas and Israel if both of them agree on the reconstruction of Gaza? The conflict is that the Hamas saying that the priority for the reconstruction of Gaza should have to go to our own tunnels and to our own military capability. While Israel said, no way. The priority for the reconstruction in Gaza should have to go to the houses and to the other civil facilities which has been destroyed during the war, the summer war in 2014. And this is how the whole reconstruction issue almost delayed in Gaza since around 2 years ago, because of the conflict between the 4 different parties, especially among the Palestinians themselves, the Fatah and the Hamas. If we will take the Rafah passage, which is dividing Gaza from Egypt, during the last year, 2015, the Rafah passage has been opened only for 20 days during the whole year. How many Palestinians succeed to cross it from Gaza to inside Egypt during the last year? 20,000 only. If we will move to 2011, how many Palestinians from Gaza succeed to cross the Rafah passage to inside Egypt? 460,000 people, around 500,000 people succeed to cross it, while during the last year, only 20,000 people. That's showing you the pressure that the Egyptians are trying to impose on the Gaza Strip. Because the Egyptians want to punish all of the Gaza Strip, not only the Hamas. Because the Egyptians believe that while more and more pressure they are going to impose on the people in Gaza, probably the people will start boiling and moving and acting against the existing of the Hamas in the Gaza Strip. So this is right now the situation in the Gaza Strip. Now, if we will move a little bit to the West Bank, I am a person who believes that if Mr. Netanyahu tomorrow morning will meet President Abbas, probably the first question Netanyahu is going to ask Abbas, whom you are representing, Mr. President? West Bank, Gaza Strip, or Palestinians diaspora? In my opinion, President Abbas only representing his 2 sons and his wife. And there is a huge of a lack of trust these days among the Palestinians and their own leadership. I think that the majority of the Palestinians these days almost lost the trust in their own leadership. If you will come today to any ordinary Palestinian and asking him what are the most 3 priorities that you are seeking, he will say a job to survive, to secure the education system and the health system for my children. Nobody is talking about settlements. Nobody is talking about the wall. Nobody is talking about the foundation of the Palestinian state. Which means that the majority of the Palestinians, in my opinion, are people who are seeking dignity rather than identity. I don't have any problem with my identity. Wherever I am traveling around the world and saying that I am a Palestinian, everybody recognizing me. But if I will say that I came from Abu Dhabi, people probably will ask questions. Is it nearby Turkey, far away from Syria? Is it in Asia? Is it in Africa, which is an existing country in the Gulf? And dignity can be approached only via an economic prosperity. And here where we should have to criticize the international community. The international community, since the Oslo Agreement in 93 until today, almost hundreds of billions of dollars has been spent on the Oslo Agreement and the characters of Oslo. But those hundreds of billions of dollars never ever been able to establish one job in the West Bank or one job in the Gaza Strip. And the big question is where the money has been gone. No doubt that we have a very corrupt leadership. I think that every Palestinian today almost realized how much his own leadership is so corrupt. I think that the majority of the Palestinians never ever believe that the current Palestinian leadership will bring any kind of solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Friends, if we will look to the Middle East map today, and the Islamic growing terror around it, I think that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is probably the most safe place in the Middle East. As a Muslim, as an Arab, I don't want to be in Syria. I don't want to be in Libya. I don't want to be in Iraq. I don't want to be in Yemen. It's much more safer for myself and for my children to continue living where I am today. If we, the Palestinians, have one conflict with the Israelis, we still have several conflicts with the Arabs. Look what the Arabs are doing to the Palestinians. Show me one Arab country who is interested to feed the Gaza Strip. Show me one Arab country who wants to provide any kind of fuel for electricity in the Gaza Strip, even among the other Arab countries in the Gulf, where is the whole oil of the world is located there. No one wants to pay any attention right now to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Just 1 month ago, a very high-rank military officers from Saudi Arabia came on a visit to Israel, to Tel Aviv. I think that the Gulf today, and especially the Saudi Arabia, are much more aware of the Iranian threat rather than the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And no doubt that after the agreement between the United States and Iran on the nuclear weapon, I think that the Saudi Arabia and the Gulf in general almost lost the trust in the American administration. And these countries right now are trying to find the real protector for them from the Iranians, and looks like that their conclusion was that Israel is the only one who probably can protect them from the Iranian threat. Several Saudi Arabia delegation almost visited Israel. And I believe that these delegations never ever mentioned to the Israelis the Israeli-Palestinian conflict or the Palestinian issue or how we can solve it. I think that each country has its own interest right now. And each country around the world, the priority is how to defend its own internal security. And this is how the Palestinians almost has been lost. No one is mentioning us. No one is trying to help us. I don't believe in the so-called the French Initiative for Peace, that they are trying to fix a kind of conference in November or before the end of this year to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I don't think that the French government is talking about any conferences right now. We heard the president of Russia right now, Putin, who is trying to fix something, how to bring together Bibi Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas, which is Mahmoud Abbas almost accepted, but Bibi Netanyahu almost rejected. We used to have elections on the next month in October for the municipality and the local councils. Just this morning, I heard that the Palestinian Supreme Court almost put a decision to postpone the elections. I think that the Supreme Court put out such kind of decision on the demand of Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president. And that means that in the lack of the elections, no kind of reconciliation will be reached between the Hamas and the Fatah. I think that the Palestinian leadership today, even the two-state solution almost has been rejected. And the Palestinian leaders today are much more seeking a kind of three-state solution for two people. Because the Hamas is very interesting in its own Islamic emirate in the Gaza Strip, and the Fatah very interesting in its own empire in the West Bank and the State of Israel. This is the solution. And this is how we are living together in the past even 7 years or 9 years. Everybody is so satisfied with his own. And that's showing that the reconciliation will never ever will take place between the Palestinians themselves. I don't think that we, the Palestinians, has the right today to come and to accuse any other part around the world in the lack of the peace process or in the lack of the negotiations. I think that we should have, first of all, to blame ourselves on such lack of negotiations, and without the Palestinians will reach a kind of unity, I don't believe that any process will take place on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now we are in a big dilemma. Sometimes people asking, what is the alternative to Abbas? If you will ask me what is the alternative to Abbas, I will tell you Abbas. Because there is a lack of a leadership. We don't have a leadership. And everybody is aware about the lack of a leadership. If you will come today to any Palestinian and asking him what is the solution, then immediately he will say, wait till Abbas will die. There is a huge expectation that after the death of this person, probably things will improve. In which way it's going to improve, nobody knows. To the positive way or to the negative way, nobody knows. But no doubt that some change will come out if this guy will pass away. So the Palestinians right now are not care if the peace process is going to resume. The Palestinians much more care about their own economy. And I think that the Palestinians right now almost is stuck nowhere. We don't know exactly where we are in the political map. And the only thing is how to guarantee your survival. This is the only important issue for any Palestinian today if he is living in the West Bank or in the Gaza Strip. How to survive. And this is what people are fighting for. I am quite sure that the current situation at least will continue. I believe that there are some people who has a little bit of expectations that probably the new American administration is going to do something. Don't lie on yourself. The American administration will do nothing to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And we witnessed in the past 20 years so many promises from several different presidents in the United States. No one almost succeed to fulfill his own promises, from Bill Clinton to George Bush to President Obama. And I am a person who believes that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict can be solved only by the Israelis and the Palestinians without any intervention from any third party. Let us wait until the goodwill will come out from the both sides, and then probably that will be a golden opportunity to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I will stop right now and will give you enough time probably to ask questions and to make things a little bit clear. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please.
How old is Abbas?
82. But Shimon Peres is 93. So still, I think that he considered himself as very young when they are mentioning to him Shimon Peres. Yeah. Al-Sibsi in Tunisia, the president of Tunisia, he is over than 85 years old. And he was elected just a year, 2 years ago. So that makes no sense, yeah, the age. Yeah.
What do you think will be the motivation for Israel and Palestine, the Palestinians, to come together to negotiate?
Right now, I didn't see any kind of a good signs which might bring the Israelis and the Palestinians together. I think that everybody in the past 5 years almost failed to bring the Israelis and the Palestinians together. Just 2 months ago, we heard about the Egyptian president, Abdel Fattah Sisi, that he also thought to bring Mahmoud Abbas and Netanyahu together in a meeting in Cairo. But I don't think that the issue is an issue of to meet each other. I think that the issue is if there is a goodwill to solve the conflict or there is a goodwill to manage the conflict. Looks like to me right now that the goodwill is how to manage the conflict rather than to solve it. Please.
Do you think the BDS movement helps or
The
BDS movement helps or hurts the Palestinians?
Of course it hurts the Palestinians. I think that the BDS knows that very well. I think that the BDS knows very well what they are doing. And I think that the idea of the BDS that if we want to destroy Israel, so it's not a big problem if we are going to victimize the Palestinians for that. And that's exactly what the BDS is doing. The BDS is victimizing the Palestinians. Like any other organization in the world, like any other country in the world. I didn't see any difference between the UN and the BDS, by the way. I didn't see. I think that both of them are acting according to the anti-Semitism policy, both of them. And no doubt that this is one of probably the main, let's say, guidelines of the BDS that we need to victimize the Palestinians in terms to destroy Israel. They couldn't do it without victimizing the Palestinians. I think, in my opinion, the Palestinians, by the way, are not really aware about the BDS movement. The majority of the Palestinians never ever heard about the BDS. We don't have BDS among us. We don't have. Israel is still importing all of its products to the Gaza Strip and to the West Bank. There is no alternative to the Palestinians. Still, we have around 97,000 Palestinian workers entering every day inside Israel, working and getting back to the West Bank. 97,000. Beside that 97,000, we have another 15,000 Palestinian workers who are entering to the all settlements in the West Bank, building the settlements and going back homes. We are building the settlements because we want to survive. We want to guarantee the future of our children. We shouldn't have to be shy from that, by the way. We shouldn't. So I think that the BDS is much more existing in the campuses at the universities of the United States rather than it is exist in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, because it is much more comfortable for the BDS to act in Europe and in the United States, while the BDS people knows very well if they will appear tomorrow morning in one Palestinian refugee camp and calling the people to boycott Israel, people are going to throw shoes on them. They knows that very well. This is probably one of the reasons why the BDS is not exist neither in the West Bank nor in the Gaza Strip.
What's the BDS?
This is the boycott, divestment, and sanctions in an organization who is calling, on sanctions against Israel. And they are very active, especially in the campuses in the United States and in Europe. Yeah. Please.
Two questions. One is, do you see any prospects for reduced corruption in the Palestinian government, either in the West Bank or the Gaza Strip? And secondly, what would it take for there to be a change of government in the Gaza Strip?
I will take the first question because it's easier to answer it. I think if you remember, if you are following the Palestinian history, we used to have a prime minister before the current one who called Salam Fayyad. I think that Salam Fayyad is probably the only Palestinian leader who was really care about his people. I think that Salam Fayyad knows very well that a Palestinian state without an economic sources will never ever will be a state. The economic sources is one of the most important thing in terms to found a state. And I think that Salam Fayyad is one of the people who try also to build the state institutions. State also, beside the economic sources, it needs institutions. But unfortunately, when Abbas saw that Fayyad is trying to find an economic sources and to build the institutions of the state, Abbas kicked him out. Abbas came to him by asking him, who told you that we want a state? Go home. And this is exactly what's happened with Salam Fayyad. And by building the institutions of the state, that means that he tried to decrease the corruption of the Palestinian Authority. That's exactly what's happened. He almost failed because he was kicked out. Today we have a prime minister who has no idea what he's doing. So to increase the corruption looks like that it's very difficult. Now towards Gaza, it's even more difficult. Sometimes they said that fighting terror much easier than fighting corruption. Much easier. And looks like to me that the issue of the Hamas is still a long lesson. And we are still in the beginning. We are still in the beginning. I don't know how much you are following the charges against the former Egyptian president, Mohammed Morsi. Mohammed Morsi used to recognize Gaza as a state and to open in Cairo Gaza embassy, the embassy of Gaza. Looks like that Gaza is almost a state. Today, if you will look to Turkey, and especially to Erdogan, who is trying to create his own caliphate right now in the Middle East. He is trying to annex Gaza to his new caliphate. So it's a big fight. It's not only among the Palestinians themselves, but it is also among Palestinians and the outsiders. So it's a big issue, and I didn't see right now any signs that the issue of Gaza is going to be solved one day. Yeah. Please.
I agree with your comments on Salam Fayyad, and the wonderful things he's done to build up economic structures and state institutions. I've got two questions. What is the possibility of the Palestinian people supporting him? I know the government doesn't, but is there a chance that there's a popular support in Palestine? And secondly, can you comment on the expansion of the settlements and its impact on Palestinian land? Thank you.
Yeah, towards Salam Fayyad, I think that the support of the people is very important. But while the people are scared from their leaders to support X or Y person, means that he almost lost such kind of support. People are scared even to mention his name, because Salam Fayyad has a big fight not only with the government but with the Fatah movement. The Fatah movement was totally against Salam Fayyad. And if you will look today to the Fatah people in the West Bank, the majority of the Palestinians in the West Bank are affiliated with Fatah. And those who are not affiliated with Fatah are very scared from Fatah. So Salam Fayyad can get zero support at the end from the population. I think that he tried in the last elections in 2006 to put out his own political party. And he called it in that time the third way. How many seats he got during the elections? 2 seats. Himself and Hanan Ashrawi. I guess that you probably remember Hanan Ashrawi. And now, neither Hanan Ashrawi talking to Salam Fayyad, nor Salam Fayyad talking to Hanan Ashrawi. So Salam Fayyad is not on the agenda, on the political agenda right now. I don't think that even Salam Fayyad is interesting to go back to politics. I think that he almost find, a job outside, and he's living very, very well with the job that he got from the United Nations, from the UN. Now, about the extension of the settlements. My question is, what is the Palestinian leadership try to do in terms to decrease the extension of the settlements? We need to do something. We couldn't sit in the cupboard and close the cupboard and calling the word to go and to deal with the extension of the settlements. You couldn't do it. Excuse me. You couldn't do it. Now, one of the major problems that Israel can get a very cheap workers from the Palestinians to extend those settlements. Why the Palestinian Authority didn't succeed to create jobs for its own people? Why Israel today is paying the monthly salary today in Israel is 5 times more than it is in the West Bank. 5 times more than it is in the West Bank. And the Palestinians today prefer to go and to work in the settlements rather than to work in any other Palestinian factory, because I can make a good money. with $1,500 a month, I believe that they are much better than $400 a month, which is the average salary today under the Palestinian Authority, $400 a month. So I think that the Palestinian Authority should have to find out a kind of process. And you couldn't deal with the corruption, you couldn't corrupt your people under the umbrella and hide yourself under the umbrella of the Israeli occupation. You couldn't do it. And this is unfortunately what is most of the Arab leaders are doing. Most of the Arab leaders are very interesting to keep the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and not to solve it. Because this is the only way how they can corrupt their own people under the liberation of the Palestinians from the Israeli occupation. There is no interest to solve it. Looks like to me that everybody around the world, every country around the world, became a part of the conflict today rather than a part of the solution. And sometimes I used to call it a commercial conflict rather than it is a political one. Because looks like that this is source of income to the whole region, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So I want to see a strong leadership who are trying to take some measures against something. Not just to sit in Ramallah and to call the French to interfere and to call the German to interfere and to call the Americans to interfere. You should also initiate something to interfere. Yes?
I don't know if I was listening right, but you said that Palestinian factory workers are making $400 a month in Palestinian factories, but if they were working in an Israeli factory, it would be $1,500 a month?
Yes, that's right.
Are they choosing, they're not choosing to work the 400, but they're working those jobs because they haven't been granted access to work in Israel?
Yeah, not everybody can have an access to work in Israel. I believe that all of the Palestinian workers today would love to get the Israeli working permit and to go to Ra'anana, to Tel Aviv, to Netanya, wherever, to work. But unfortunately, there are so many limitations on issuing the working permit to the Palestinians. Sometimes one of the conditions, as an example, if you are single, you are not allowed to get the working permit. Even that if you are 30 years old, if you are 35 years old, you are single. They prefer, to bring much more married people who got children, even if they are younger, and to give them such kind of permits. So many, it's very complicated issue. And I think that the Palestinians are trying, more and more to push towards to obtain the Israeli working permit, because sometimes looks like that to get the Israeli working permit in the settlements, it is much easier than to get the working permit in Tel Aviv, as an example, or Ra'anana or Haifa or something. So, but I think that the Israelis also from time to time trying to increase the number of the Palestinian workers. I remember just few months ago, the Israelis issue a new 30,000 working permit to the Palestinians. 30,000. This is very important income, to the Palestinians, because the main source of income to the Palestinians today is the work inside Israel. Yeah. Please.
Two questions on, not related at all. One is, what is your motivation to be coming to Jackson, Wyoming and sharing your perspectives and understanding?
It's a message. I believe that my message should have to be spreading out. It's not only to Jackson Hole, it's around all of the United States.
Why?
I think that it is important because I am seeking the help of these people. I am trying to point out the sickness of the Palestinians. Probably there are people who are aware and who could provide a kind of help for such kind of sickness to recover us from such kind of sickness. I think that I am trying to raise also the suffer of the Palestinians here. And the suffer of the Palestinians is not from the Israelis. It's, in my opinion, it is much more from my own leadership. Because since 1948 until today, I want somebody to explain to me what the Palestinian leadership did for us. Since 48 until today. We are moving from one disaster to another tragedy. From tragedy to another, I don't know whatever to call it. This is what's really happening in the past 68 years. Sometimes I used to say that the Palestinians today are not anymore the victims of the Israeli occupation, but they are the victims of their own leadership.
The Israelis treat them well?
Much better than the Palestinian Authority, in my opinion. Much better than the Palestinian Authority. This is why we want to work with the Israelis, not with the Palestinian Authority.
Your children being taught hatred?
Yeah, this is
In home?
also this is something that, in my opinion, not only the Palestinian Authority should have to be accused on it, but also the international community. Who is supporting the education system in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip? It's Europe. It's Europe via the UNRWA. It's Europe. Brussels paying every month around $50 million to the Palestinian teachers as salaries. And they know that such kind of curriculum will never ever bring any kind of peace. It's the opposite. It's trying to increase hatred and incitement against the Israelis. They knows. But unfortunately, looks like that Europe also using the Palestinians to push its own anti-Semitism against the Jewish people. They are using us. In terms to teach the Brussels children in the schools hatred and incitement against Israel, they are doing it via the Palestinians. And they are paying the money. Why you are paying money? We want to support the Palestinians. We want to support the Palestinians. But looks like that the Belgian people has no idea where is that support is really going. I think that this is one of the other disasters of the Palestinians, the so-called United Nations and UNRWA. You know, the United Nations almost founded in 1950. Till today, what the United Nations did to the world. I think that the United Nations almost created more conflict rather than it solved conflicts. What UNRWA did to the Palestinian refugees in the past 68 years, since 52 until today, what UNRWA did. So everybody is keeping silence on that. I think that it is the time to raise all of these issues. Probably, if we will raise these important issues, a solution will come. Yeah. Please. You are.
There's a lot of criticism about, in the press, about Israeli security measures in the West Bank, the behavior of the Israeli army in the West Bank. What would you recommend that Israel change, if anything, in their security measures in the West Bank?
See, I think all of the world right now, while they are trying to practice more and more security, looks like all of the world in a lack of security. Security is a very important issue, in my opinion. Each country has the full right for its own security. I'll tell you another story. I am a person who is traveling a lot to Sinai in Egypt. I am participating in research over there with some Americans and some Egyptians. It's horrible to drive from Taba, yeah, to, let's say, I don't want to say Sharm el-Sheikh, let's say to Nuweiba and to Dahab. On the way, in 70, let's say in 140 kilometers between Taba and Dahab, you couldn't believe that there is over than 27 security checkpoints. You couldn't believe it. With tanks, not only soldiers with guns, with tanks. Now, who is suffering from these checkpoints? Believe me, not the foreigners, the Egyptians. Once I crossed a checkpoint and I found 4 young Egyptians sitting beside. I asked them, where are you from? They said, we are from Cairo. I said, what you are doing here? They said, we came for a visit. We never been in Dahab. Never been in Dahab. And they said, why you are sitting here? They said, we are sitting here since 10 hours ago because they are trying to check our record and nobody answering the telephone. 10 hours. I didn't see any Palestinian on any Israeli checkpoint waited really for 10 hours. So while you are looking to what is surrounding yourself, you became a little bit more and more satisfied with your own situation. Yeah. Yes, please.
I'm Mary Garrett.
Yes.
I agree. Reporting on human rights abuses committed by the Palestinians to the Palestinians is not a popular topic, and journalists don't report on it, and so I agree with you.
Yes, unfortunately.
And I agree that the NGO culture,
Yeah,
and, $1 billion flow through Ramallah a year.
that's right.
And they're often Northern European, Arab NGOs that want peace about as much as Hamas. Right? But anyway, my question is about the recent, last 18 months, the recent spat of stabbing attacks, car ramming,
Yeah.
terror attacks in Israel. In your opinion, what was the response by the Palestinians on the street? In your opinion?
See, I witnessed several, unfortunately, several incidents of stabbing. I don't think that there is a huge support among the Palestinians, by the way. I agree that probably after each incident, couple of tens of people throwing sweets in Ramallah or in the roads in the Gaza Strip. But we are talking about a couple of tens of people. I believe that they are not even reached the 100 people. While you have 1.5 million people in the West Bank and another 1.5 million people in the Gaza Strip. I don't think that those tens of people almost representing the Palestinians. I was in East Jerusalem several times while people became very upset while any incident of stabbing taking place, especially those who are running, their own shops in the area, because they know that after each incident of stabbing, Israel will come and close the area. And this is how people are losing more and more tourists especially in East Jerusalem, and this is how people are losing their prosperity and their economy. But in the meantime, people are afraid to stand up and to speak against it. They are afraid. They couldn't do anything. People used to say all the time, put your head among the heads and don't raising it up. And that's showing, in my opinion, how much the Palestinians are really so frustrated from such kind of incidents. Now, towards the human rights, in last May, I presented a human rights report on behalf of the Henry Jackson Society in the UK at the UK Parliament. I wrote a report, 1-year report, about violations committed by the Fatah and by the Hamas. Unfortunately, that report never ever been mentioned in one newspaper in the UK. And it was presented to the Parliament. Over than 52 members of Parliament were sitting there when I present the report and I distribute copies to them. I didn't see even a word in the UK about that report. So it is not the priority. It is not the priority of the international community right now. And I think that one of the major problems today that the international community trying to keep a blind eyes on what is the Palestinian Authority is doing or what is the Hamas is doing in the Gaza Strip. They are keeping blind eyes. This is their political agenda, is to keep a blind eyes on the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank and the Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
Bassem, you must have a lot of friends in the West Bank and Gaza.
No doubt that I have,
Are they
no
happy
doubt.
with the lectures that you're doing around
I
the
think
world?
that they are even more than happy for that. You know, I'm living in Jericho, by the way, since 12 years ago, which is under the Palestinian Authority jurisdiction. 12 years ago. I don't remember ever that any local or security force came and knocked my door. I am traveling every day to the refugee camps, to the cities, to the villages in the West Bank. I am taking, foreign students on tours to the West Bank, taking journalists, taking diplomats, and putting them directly with Palestinians to talk about the situation. I know exactly what I am doing, and I think that there are so many people who are so happy that I am the voice of those who couldn't speak out.
Why isn't Abbas putting you in jail?
I don't think that he is interested in that.
Why?
You know, I was in jail in 1996 by Arafat. But I was lucky that I kept only for 24 hours because the one who succeeded to release me in that time was the US Secretary Warren Christopher under the administration of Bill Clinton. You know, Bill Clinton used to have a very good, strong relations with Arafat. So his secretary almost released me. A week after my release, on one of the occasions, I met with Mahmoud Abbas. Then Abbas came to me by saying, listen, Bassem, when I heard about your arrest, I called Arafat and I told Arafat that this is a big mistake that you are doing. So I hope that Abbas is still remembering that. Yeah. So this is probably, that's almost gave me a kind of impunity, the interference of the American administration, and no doubt that the media also. I'm a media man. I appeared in the most popular, let's say, programs around the world. I think that that's also gave me a kind of protection right now. Yes, Mary.
Let me ask another question about anti-Semitism and your view on what to do about it. So when I go into Ramallah, I feel like it's 1938 Berlin. Every bookstore is selling on the streets Nazi propaganda, Nazi books, Nazi flags, and it's really
In Ramallah?
yeah, in every bookstore.
I really didn't see it in Ramallah, by the way.
Oh, see, it's right on the streets.
I never ever saw it in Ramallah. I think I don't know. I never ever. I saw in Jerusalem, by the way, in Jerusalem. Just I was, on a tour with a friend from Washington D.C. and I saw on a T-shirt there that somebody tried to Google Palestine. Then he get the question, try to Google Israel. Then the question from Google came, do you mean Palestine?
I saw that.
Yeah, I saw it. In Ramallah, I never ever saw it. But probably, it's in my opinion, it's much more a kind of propaganda probably, rather than anything else. Because how it could be that you are selling, something related to the Nazis, but while you are, on the other hand, selling the Israeli product. Each shop right now in the West Bank selling the Israeli product.
Okay, well, what's your view on anti-Semitic views?
I don't think that it is something related to our culture, by the way. We the Arabs, are Semitic people, by the way. We are. The Arabs and the Muslims are Semitic people. So anti-Semitism, I don't think that this is something among our culture, and I think that this is something that if we have it today, looks like that we inherited from the Europeans. And this is how the Europeans are trying, as I said, to use the Palestinians to raise more and more the issue of the anti-Semitism. Great. I would like to thank you so much.
We have another question. Right?
Another question, please. Yes, please.
In your opinion, what is the effect, how much is the effect of the negative education in the Palestinian Authority territories towards some sort of solution? And especially compared to the government not doing anything?
I think that education is very important. If we are talking about solution, I think that that schools or the curriculum should have to be a part of the solution. While the education system today became a part of the conflict rather than a part of the solution, it looks like that means that we need still a long time to reach a kind of solution. And I think that the United Nations should have to be blamed on this issue when we are talking about the Palestinian curriculum and what they are teaching inside the schools. I think that we, the Palestinians, the moderate Palestinians, also should have to be so aware and very worried from what UNRWA and the United Nations is trying to educate our own children. Listen, I was in different schools of UNRWA, not only in the West Bank, but also in Jordan. And the pupils there, 10 years old, 12 years old, talking about suicide bombing, talking about shooting, talking about stabbing, talking about how to kill Jews. I was so scared in Jordan when I heard such kind of things. So looks like that this is the policy, unfortunately, of UNRWA. But in the meantime, I didn't see any country around the world, including the United States, which is donating $300 million a year to UNRWA. To UNRWA. They never try to come and to say, listen, what you are doing to these people. I think that UNRWA also trying to victimize our own children here and to push them more and more towards the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Because the only one probably who really want the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to continue is the United Nations and UNRWA. Because without the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, these people couldn't survive anymore.
What is the solution in your opinion?
I think, first of all, the UN should have to be closed, in my opinion. I think to be closed. The UN should have to be closed because from the history of the UN brought more conflicts to the world rather than solutions. I didn't see in one conflict that the UN succeed to solve it. I didn't see right now. So probably the money that the world today is spending on the UN and on UNRWA, I believe that if that will be spent on countries and people, that probably will bring more prosperity, and probably more and more prosperity will decrease the violence.
Do you think that there will be peace within the next 15 or 20 years, and do you think it will be sustainable?
I am really not so optimistic towards that. I am not going to see any peace.
You keep educating the younger generations.
Yeah, it's a very complicated issue.
Do you speak for Palestinians?
I am speaking with Palestinians.
Do you speak for Palestinians?
Of course. No. I'm visiting people inside the camps, inside the villages, inside the cities, in the coffee shops, and all of us talking about that. No. To the universities, no.
Palestinian
No. Because I am charging money, I'm asking for honorarium, and they are not paying. I'm not doing it for free, by the way.
So you referred, I thought I may have misunderstood, to yourself as an Arab, but I thought earlier you had said you were a Palestinian. You do differentiate between?
What does it mean, Arab and Palestinian? All Palestinians are Arabs. We used to say everybody speaks Arabic is an Arab.
But you also, I guess then the differentiation is between the Palestinian
No.
people and the Arab
No.
states.
No. We are also an Arab state. We also considered as an Arab state. We are a part in the Arab League, as an example. The Arab League in Egypt, it's all for the Arabs and for the Palestinians.
I thought though that you were saying that the Arab, okay, forget Palestinian. but
No.
Saudi Arabians but that some of the Arab states are interested in maintaining the conflict because they make money on it.
Of course. Yes, I said. Yes, no doubt. Which means that they are using the Palestinians. The Palestinians almost has been used by the Arabs.
So there you would differentiate between the Palestinians and the Arabs?
Yeah, no. That it doesn't mean that there is a difference between the Arabs and the Palestinians. No, the Palestinians also Arabs, but not all of the Arabs are Palestinians. Yeah, you have Jordanians, you have Syrians, you have Tunisian, you have Algerian, you have Iraqis, you have Sudanese, you have Egyptian. So we are Palestinians, but all of us are Arabs. Yeah. Yes, please.
So let's talk about trying to follow the UN and the educational system in Palestine.
Yes.
And you threw out, like, I don't know where the 50 million came from, but there were a lot of millions of dollars. And then I got the feeling that they're determining the curriculum or something. Tell us more about it so that I understand it better.
See, we have two different things here. We have the UN and we have UNRWA.
What is UNRWA?
UNRWA is the UN Works Relief Agency. UN Works Relief Agency. UNRWA is a body who was founded in 1952 by one of the resolutions of the United Nations. And the United Nations in 52 founded the UNRWA to take care for the Palestinian refugees who left their homes during the war 1948. This is the history of UNRWA. So UNRWA, since 1952, when they has been established, they start building refugee camps for Palestinians. Refugee camps for Palestinians. You have Palestinians refugees in Gaza, you have Palestinian refugees in the West Bank, and you have Palestinian refugees in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Where the Palestinians today claim that in the refugee camps in Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan, there is around 6 million Palestinians. But nobody really knows the exact number. I believe in Syria, most of them has been killed in the past civil war of 5 years. Most of them, probably. So this is the history of UNRWA. Today, the yearly budget of UNRWA is $1.6 billion. $1.6 billion a year. This is, let's say, $1.5 billion. The yearly budget of UNRWA today. Now, what UNRWA is really doing to the Palestinian refugee in such a huge amount of money? What they are really doing? Now, okay, you are feeding the Palestinians since 58 until today. You are educating the Palestinians since 58 until today. You are taking care of the Palestinian health since 58 until today. Now, how you are going to solve the issue of the refugees? Are you going to keep them in the refugee camps for the coming 66 years? How you are going to solve it? You are a body who has been founded to solve something. You couldn't continue surviving by keeping this thing as it is. You couldn't. I want a solution. I want a solution. What is the solution? I didn't see that the UN trying to find any solution. I didn't see that the UNRWA trying to find any solution. I didn't see that the international community try to put pressure on the UN to solve the issue of the Palestinian refugees.
Isn't the law of return, that's what they want?
What does it mean?
I think he's still getting to the education.
Everybody knows. Listen, I almost visited the old refugee camps in Syria and in Lebanon and in Jordan. I didn't see one Palestinian refugee in Syria or in Lebanon or in Jordan who believes that the right of return will be applicable one day. They told me. I know that the Palestinian Authority using this slogan to scare Israel, let's say. But nobody in Lebanon believes that one day he will come back to Haifa. There was a big study conducted, a big survey conducted by a Palestinian organization in 2009 in Ramallah. And that survey has been conducted among Palestinian refugees in diaspora, not in the West Bank, not in the Gaza Strip. And the question was, how you are looking to the solution of the refugees. 70% of the people who participated in the survey said that the solution is compensation. Compensation means that these people need a normal house, need a normal school, need a normal hospital. This is what does it mean? Compensation. 70%. So where is America? Where is Europe? Why to give the money to UNRWA? Let's save the budget of UNRWA at least for 10 years. Believe me, I will build country, not a refugee camp in that money. Let's save the money for 10 years. But as I said, that everybody today trying to be involved in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in terms to keep the conflict ongoing rather than to find the solution. Yeah.
How does that work with the education? I was asking about who sets the agenda, who creates the curriculum.
See, I think that the agenda has been the people who put out the curriculum were Palestinians, not foreigners from the UK or from France. Of course that they are Palestinians. But on the other side, while the Palestinian Authority and the donors knows that such curriculum is affecting the conflict, I think that they must have to speak a word against it. It's written by Palestinians. But I think that the donors who are paying the money for that curriculum should have to check if this curriculum suits the situation or it is not suits the situation. How we can change it, how we can improve it, how we can find out a new curriculum which is calling for peace rather than calling for incitement and for hatred. But unfortunately, nobody is interested even to change it.
So what about the cultural value system among the Palestinian people? That's basically losing ground to this institutional educational system. I mean, what's happening in the homes, parent to child?
See, unfortunately, I think that people are living under a kind of pressure. Pressure. And pressure sometimes bringing violence. I think that we have a lot of cases of an internal violence and a family violence, by the way. Every 2 days, you heard about a specific case of murder in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip. This is not easy. This is not easy. I think that that's showing also the lack of the internal and the personal security. It's horrible. If you will go to visit a family and you want to document what the family is suffering from and how the violence is increasing, it's horrible. It's horrible. Then you start thinking how you can rehabilitate this society rather than to solve their conflict with the Israelis. Because their conflict with the Israelis is not harming them. There are some other things which is really harming them. And these things should have to be solved. Each normal government around the world should have to deal with these specific issues. But unfortunately, when you have such corrupt authority who is less and less scared about their own people, this is the result that you are going to receive. Yeah.
Ahmed has a question.
Great, please. Last question. Everybody will remember it, by the way.
You postulated, and rightfully so, that the Palestinians have been victimized by numerous organizations, by the Europeans,
By their own leadership.
by the leadership, and arguably by certain Arab countries.
Yeah.
Could you comment on, I'm curious to know what's your opinion of Fatah in the West Bank, Hamas in Gaza, even Hezbollah. You know, these are not homegrown,
Yeah.
arguably, institutions. You know, their core, their source is really from, has been imported
Yeah.
into the region.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
certainly they have to have some sort of influence or grip
Mhm.
on what's happening or isn't happening.
See, today I didn't,
Would you throw them under the banner?
I didn't see right now.
By Arab countries?
Yeah.
How do the Palestinians-
I didn't see right now, at least in the past, let's say, 1 year, I didn't see any difference between the Hamas and the Fatah, by the way. We used to say that Fatah movement is a moderate movement and the Hamas are a radical people. Today, I didn't see any different because today, unfortunately, it became as a competition between the Hamas and the Fatah who is going to fight Israel more. This is how things are standing today. And while such kind of a competition became between the Fatah and the Hamas, I think that that's even affecting the conflict and the Palestinians very negatively. Because the whole expectation since the Oslo Agreement, let's say, until the beginning of the Second Intifada, the expectation was that the Fatah is the one who is going to bring peace. It's like the competition between the Likud and the Labour Party in Israel. Yeah, who is going to bring peace? There is a big competition between them. But unfortunately, in the past year, I can say, since October last year, the so-called stabbing intifada or the knife intifada, looks like that there is a competition who is going to hurt Israel more. And when these people reach such kind of step, who is going to hurt Israel more, I think that these people trying to establish their own contacts outside with the old fundamentalists, the extremists, not only Hezbollah. I believe that there are some other, the Islamic Brotherhood movement, the Iranians as an example, much more horrible, in my opinion, rather than the Hezbollah itself. And while such kind of a net start growing among those organizations or among those political parties, I think that should have to put us in a very sensitive position. How we can stop it, how we can fight it, something like that. But right now, I didn't see that there is any effort, to divide such kind of extremist people who succeed to create or to establish such kind of a huge net right now, especially in the Middle East. And in my opinion, there are some countries who are trying to feed such kind of radical people right now to escalate the situation right now. If we will take Qatar as an example, if we will take Turkey right now, what is the difference between Qatar and Iran? In my opinion, nothing. What is the difference between Iran and Erdogan? In my opinion, nothing. Even sometimes Erdogan looks like became much more extremist rather than Hassan Hashimi, whatever his name. So this is one of the real problems, that while you have an incident, this incident can gather a lot of people, and then it became a big issue which need a long time to solve it. This is exactly how I am looking today to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, with the different political parties like the Fatah and like the Hamas.